The biology of attraction, women's bodies communicate sexual interest long before their words do. This isn't guesswork or pop psychology, it's rooted in biology. When a woman feels genuine desire, her autonomic nervous system triggers involuntary responses designed to signal availability to high-value partners. These cues exist because, throughout human evolution, women who could subtly convey attraction while maintaining plausible deniability had a reproductive advantage. They could attract strong mates without risking social backlash for overt sexual behavior. The autonomic nervous system ANS controls the body's unconscious functions: heart rate, digestion, pupil dilation, and splits into two branches: the sympathetic arousal and parasympathetic rest. Sexual attraction activates the sympathetic system, flooding the body with adrenaline and dopamine. This creates physiological changes that are impossible to fake. For example, her pupils dilate to take in more visual information about you. Her heart rate increases, and blood flows to erogenous zones like lips and skin, creating a flushed appearance. These responses happen automatically, without her conscious control. But why does this matter for men? Because most men focus on what women say, not what their bodies do. Women can verbally reject a man while their biology screams attraction. Conversely, they might offer polite laughter or friendly touches without a shred of real desire. The key is distinguishing between social niceties and primal attraction. A woman who's just being kind might smile or nod, but her body remains neutral. No dilated pupils, no lingering proximity, no involuntary mirroring of your movements. A woman who's truly interested, however, will display a cluster of these biological signals, no matter how subtly. Consider the role of evolution in shaping these signals. In ancestral environments, women faced a dilemma: how to attract the best mates without exposing themselves to social stigma or predatory men, those who could signal interest discreetly through fleeting eye contact. Slight postural shifts, or brief touches could screen for confident, attentive partners while avoiding unwanted attention from others. This explains why modern female desire often manifests in ways that are easy to miss unless you know what to look for. A brush of her hand against yours might seem accidental, but if her pupils expand when it happens, it's a silent confession of attraction. Another critical distinction is the difference between social and sexual body language. A woman might laugh at your jokes or lean in during conversation out of politeness. But if she's sexually aroused, her behavior will escalate in specific ways. Her touches last longer, her gaze drops to your lips, her voice lowers and softens. These are not choices, they're biological reactions. For example, when a woman is attracted to you, her body releases oxytocin and estrogen, which heighten tactile sensitivity. This is why she might suddenly play with her hair or graze her neck. Her skin is literally more responsive to touch, and she's unconsciously drawing attention to vulnerable areas. A primal invitation. Hormones also play a role in vocal changes. Sexual arousal relaxes vocal cords, creating a huskier, slower speech pattern. If her tone shifts from bright and chatty to warm and measured, it's not just mood, it's chemistry. Even her breathing changes. Shallow, quick breaths signal nervousness or disinterest, while deep, rhythmic breathing, often synchronized with yours, suggests comfort and attraction. The biggest mistake men make is assuming attraction is linear or logical. It's not. Women's signals are layered, designed to test a man's awareness and confidence. For instance, she might briefly touch your arm, then pull away to gauge your reaction. If you don't reciprocate, she'll retreat. If you match her energy, she'll escalate. This isn't manipulation, it's instinct. Her biology is asking, does this man understand me? The takeaway: stop listening to just her words. Watch. When her body betrays her through parted lips, flushed skin, or an arch in her lower back, that's the truth. Everything else is noise. The eyes serve as the most reliable window into a woman's true sexual interest because they connect directly to the autonomic nervous system, bypassing conscious control. Unlike forced smiles or polite laughter, which can be easily faked, the subtle changes that occur in a woman's eyes when she's genuinely attracted cannot be manufactured or suppressed. This makes ocular signals the gold standard for determining authentic desire. When a woman experiences sexual arousal, her pupils dilate noticeably regardless of lighting conditions. This physiological response occurs because the sympathetic nervous system triggers the iris muscles to relax, allowing the pupil to expand and take in more visual information about the object of her attraction. Even in bright environments where pupils would normally constrict, genuine interest will cause them to remain noticeably enlarged when she looks at you. This dilation happens automatically in response to dopamine and norepinephrine release, making it an infallible indicator of biological attraction. But pupil size alone doesn't tell the complete story. The pattern and quality of her eye contact provides equally important clues. A woman who's sexually interested will establish and maintain eye contact in ways that feel distinctly different from normal social interaction. Her gaze lingers just a fraction longer than polite conversation requires, creating moments of charged tension. You'll notice her eyes repeatedly returning to yours throughout the interaction, as if drawn back magnetically. There's often a subtle softening of focus, a slight relaxation of the muscles around her eyes that transforms an ordinary glance into what's commonly called bedroom eyes. This specific expression combines partially lowered eyelids with dilated pupils and a dreamy quality that signals sexual receptivity. It occurs because arousal reduces muscle tension throughout the face while increasing blood flow to the eye area, creating that unmistakably sensual appearance. Perhaps the most telling ocular behavior is what researchers term mouth gazing. When a woman frequently shifts her focus from your eyes to your lips during conversation, it indicates unconscious preoccupation with kissing and physical intimacy. This behavior becomes more pronounced as her attraction grows, with the intervals between eye and mouth glances shortening noticeably. You might observe her own lips parting slightly or her tongue making subtle movements as this happens. These micro-expressions reveal that her thoughts have shifted from verbal communication to physical connection. The duration and frequency of these mouth glances correlate directly with her level of sexual interest. The more often her eyes drop to your lips, the stronger her desire. The emotional tone conveyed through her eyes provides another critical layer of information. Genuine sexual eye contact carries a palpable energy that ordinary social gazing lacks. There's an intensity, a sense of invitation, that goes beyond simple visual connection. You'll notice her eyes darkening slightly due to pupil dilation, with a subtle sparkle caused by increased moisture from heightened arousal. Her blinks may slow and deepen, with eyelids closing fractionally longer than usual before reopening. This creates a hypnotic rhythm that draws you in and establishes intimacy. In some cases, you might catch her briefly glancing down your body before returning to eye contact, a quick but telling sign of physical appraisal. Contextual timing plays a crucial role in interpreting these signals accurately. Authentic indicators of attraction appear spontaneously in response to specific moments of connection, not as constant, forced behaviors. For instance, you might notice her pupils visibly expand when you lean in closer or make a particularly engaging comment. These are unconscious reactions to rising attraction, not performative gestures. The most reliable patterns emerge when multiple eye signals combine: dilated pupils paired with lingering gazes, frequent mouth glances occurring alongside that distinctive softening of the eye area. When these elements converge, they form an unmistakable pattern of sexual interest that transcends cultural or personal differences in expression. The eyes truly never lie when it comes to revealing genuine desire. The way a woman positions and moves her body reveals volumes about her unspoken sexual interest. Unlike verbal communication, which can be carefully curated, physical postures and touches emerge from deeper instinctual layers of the brain, making them far more reliable indicators of true attraction. When genuinely aroused, a woman's body unconsciously orients itself to encourage proximity and physical contact with the object of her desire. This begins with subtle but telling shifts in how she positions herself in relation to you. Notice how her torso, hips, and feet consistently angle toward you, even in group settings where others are present. This full body alignment occurs automatically as her nervous system prepares for potential intimate interaction, creating what body language experts call ventral fronting, the instinctive presentation of the vulnerable front of the body to someone she trusts and desires. The progression of touch follows a remarkably consistent pattern when sexual interest is present. Initial contact appears accidental, a brush of her arm against yours as she passes by, or her hand lingering slightly longer than necessary when handing you an object. These seemingly casual touches actually serve as carefully calculated tests of your reaction and comfort level. As attraction builds, the touches become more deliberate and intimate in nature. She might find reasons to touch your forearm during conversation, or let her knee rest against yours when sitting side by side. The duration of these touches extends beyond what normal social etiquette would dictate, often accompanied by other arousal signals like flushed skin or quickened breathing. Pay particular attention to how she responds when you initiate touch. A woman who's genuinely interested will lean into the contact rather than pull away, and may even find ways to prolong or reciprocate the connection. Self-touching behaviors offer another window into her arousal state. When sexually interested, women frequently engage in what anthropologists call autocontact, touching their own neck, playing with their hair, or running fingers along their collarbone. These gestures serve multiple functions. They draw attention to erogenous zones, release pheromones from scent glands, and unconsciously mimic the touches she'd like to receive from you. The frequency and nature of these self-touches intensify. Along with her arousal, hair twirling progresses to full stroking. Light neck touches become more pronounced. Caresses, particularly telling, are moments when she mirrors your gestures, like taking a sip of her drink immediately after you do, or crossing her legs in the same direction as yours. This unconscious mimicry indicates her nervous system is syncing with yours, a phenomenon researchers have linked to strong romantic chemistry. The most definitive body language cues emerge in how she manages physical space between you. A woman experiencing genuine attraction will consistently find ways to shrink the distance separating you, positioning herself just inside what would normally be considered personal space boundaries. In social settings, she'll choose seating that allows for easy contact, perhaps selecting a cozy corner bench over individual chairs. When standing, she may lean in close enough that you catch her perfume, or arrange objects like her purse or drink to create physical connections between your spaces. These proximity violations carry special significance because they require overriding deeply ingrained social conditioning about appropriate interpersonal distance. When a woman repeatedly crosses this boundary without practical reason, her body is quite literally pulling her toward you, following ancient biological imperatives that no amount of modern socialization can completely erase. A woman's voice undergoes distinct transformations when sexually aroused, revealing what her words might conceal. As attraction builds, her vocal cords relax under the influence of arousal hormones, creating a noticeable drop in pitch and a breathier quality. This isn't the performative sexy voice some women might adopt consciously, but rather an organic shift toward warmer, more resonant tones that often drops half an octave below her normal speaking register. The rhythm of her speech slows perceptibly, with longer pauses between phrases that create space for tension to build. These pauses aren't empty gaps in conversation, but charged moments where her breathing deepens and her lips may part slightly, as if preparing for more intimate exchange than verbal communication. Listen for the subtle catch in her breath before she speaks, or the way sentences trail off into soft sighs. These are the vocal fingerprints of genuine desire. Beyond pitch and pace, the texture of her voice changes in revealing ways. Arousal increases blood flow to mucous membranes throughout the body, including the vocal tract, producing a richer, more fluid vocal quality. Words seem to glide together with less articulation, as if her mouth is preoccupied with sensations beyond speech. You might notice increased swallowing or slight throat clearing as her body produces more saliva in anticipation of potential intimacy. These physiological responses manifest audibly as wetter, more sensual speech sounds, particularly on consonants like M or L, which involve lip and tongue contact. When particularly aroused, her voice may develop a faint tremble or huskiness on sustained vowels, betraying the increased respiration rate and muscular tension that accompanies sexual excitement. Laughter transforms into one of the most reliable vocal indicators of attraction. Genuine, spontaneous laughter becomes more frequent, with a distinctly melodic quality that rises and falls in pitch like a song. This contrasts sharply with polite social laughter, which tends to be shorter and more monotonous. An attracted woman's laughter will often last just a beat longer than the humor warrants, bleeding into sigh-like exhalations that signal comfort and pleasure in your presence. Pay attention to how quickly her laughter erupts at your humor compared to others. That split-second faster response time reveals her heightened dopamine activity and emotional engagement with you specifically. The sound itself becomes more open and resonant, often accompanied by physical expressions like touching your arm or throwing her head back slightly to expose her neck. Perhaps most telling are the unconscious vocalizations that slip through between words, soft moans of agreement, whispered exclamations, or contented hums during pauses. These aren't deliberate attempts to sound seductive, but rather the vocal equivalent of body tremors during attraction, small seismic eruptions of pleasure that escape verbal control. When deeply engaged, she may begin mirroring your speech patterns, adopting your phrasing or vocabulary in a subconscious vocal dance that anthropologists call linguistic style matching. This synchronization extends to volume as well, with her voice dropping to near whisper levels that force you to lean in closer, creating physical intimacy through vocal necessity. The combined effect of these vocal changes creates what researchers term the arousal voice, a distinct acoustic profile that listeners consistently identify as sounding more attractive and sexually interested, even when the actual words remain neutral. The final piece of the attraction puzzle lies in synthesizing all these signals into a coherent understanding of genuine desire. Individual behaviors can sometimes be misleading when taken out of context, but when multiple physiological responses align in consistent patterns, they form an unmistakable map of sexual interest. A woman who casually touches her hair once might simply be adjusting a stray strand, but when that gesture accompanies dilated pupils, vocal changes, and repeated proximity violations, it becomes part of a larger story her body is telling. The key lies in recognizing clusters of signals that appear simultaneously and intensify over time. For instance, you might first notice her angling her body toward you across the room, then observe how her voice drops in pitch when you speak, followed by increasing incidental touches that grow bolder with each interaction. This progression forms what psychologists call a gestalt of attraction, a whole that becomes greater than the sum of its individual parts. Timing plays a crucial role in accurate interpretation. Authentic arousal signals emerge quickly upon initial attraction and build in intensity through continued interaction, rather than appearing suddenly after prolonged acquaintance. In the first minutes of conversation, you might detect micro-expressions of interest, the split-second dilation of pupils when you make strong eye contact, the slight part of lips when you lean in, As time passes, these become more pronounced and frequent. The woman who's genuinely interested doesn't need hours of conversation to warm up. Her biology responds immediately, though she may control how overtly she displays these responses based on social context. This explains why some of the clearest signals often appear in transitional moments, when saying goodbye at the end of an evening, or during the slight disorientation of moving between locations. These liminal spaces temporarily relax social inhibitions, allowing more authentic body language to surface. Context remains essential for separating sexual interest from general friendliness. The same woman might display nearly identical behaviors in different situations with completely different meanings. A touch that signals attraction during a late-night conversation might simply indicate camaraderie in a professional setting. The difference lies in the constellation of accompanying signals and the direction of escalation. Social politeness remains relatively constant, while sexual interest builds momentum through increasingly intimate violations of personal space, more sustained eye contact, and more frequent physical contact. Environmental factors also shape expression. A crowded bar might amplify signals as competition triggers display behaviors, while a quiet coffee shop allows for more subtle but equally telling exchanges. The most reliable context is privacy. When a woman creates opportunities to be alone with you, even briefly, it speaks volumes beyond any single body language cue. Ultimately, accurately reading these signals requires balancing observation with action. Knowledge of attraction cues means little without the confidence to respond appropriately. When multiple indicators converge, they create what's often called a green light moment, an unmistakable invitation to escalate physical or emotional intimacy. The man who hesitates at these junctures often sees the signals diminish, as female attraction thrives on reciprocal energy. This doesn't mean rushing forward aggressively, but rather matching her level of openness with calibrated responses, returning touches, holding eye contact slightly longer, or lowering your own voice to mirror her intimate tone. The dance of attraction operates on this principle of mutual escalation, where each partner's signals validate and encourage the others. Mastery lies not just in recognizing the signs, but in having the presence of mind to respond authentically in the moment, creating a feedback loop of building chemistry that separates successful romantic connections from missed opportunities.